Have you ever stood at a grave, saying goodbye to someone you love, while the person who should be standing beside you was nowhere to be found? That was me, burying my daughter while my husband was drinking expensive cocktails under the sun with another woman. Welcome to Revenge Real Tales, where real stories of betrayal, pain, and justice come to life. If you've ever been hurt, lied to, or left behind, this is your place. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss a story, and I will be forever grateful. The wind was cold that morning, but I couldn't feel it. My fingers, numb from clutching a single white rose, trembled as I stood there, staring at the freshly dug grave. My daughter's name was carved into the marble, forever etched in stone, while the life she should have lived was stolen away far too soon. Grace, my little girl, my everything. Around me, voices murmured condolences, soft whispers of sympathy that barely reached my ears. I'm so sorry for your loss. She was such a bright soul. If you need anything, please call. Words meant to comfort, yet they felt meaningless, because the only person whose presence mattered was missing. I kept glancing to my side, searching for him. My husband, the man who was supposed to stand beside me, hold my hand, share this unbearable pain. But all I felt was an empty space where he should have been. I had told myself he'd show up, that something urgent must have held him back, that no father could abandon his own daughter's funeral. But as the final shovel of dirt was thrown over Grace's grave, as the last of the mourners started to drift away, I knew he wasn't coming. A sharp vibration in my pocket startled me from my trance. My phone. For a fleeting moment, my heart lifted. Maybe it was him. Maybe he was finally reaching out, finally explaining. I pulled out my phone and stared at the screen. A text from Marcus. Busy with an important meeting. I'll call you later. An important meeting. The funeral of our daughter was happening, and all he could say was, I'll call you later. My blood turned ice cold. My fingers curled around the phone, gripping it so tightly I thought I might shatter the screen. Then my breath caught. There was a small, seemingly insignificant detail beneath his message, something I almost missed in my haze of grief. A location tag. I frowned. My hands shook as I tapped on it, and when the screen loaded, my stomach dropped. It wasn't a corporate office. It wasn't a conference room. It was a luxury beach resort. I felt like the world had stopped spinning. My fingers hovered over the screen as I stared at the name of the resort. I knew it. One of those high-end places with infinity pools, private cabanas, and cocktail service on the sand. A place where people go to celebrate life. And my husband was there, not mourning, not grieving, vacationing. I stood there, at our daughter's grave, barely able to breathe, while he was basking in the sun, sipping expensive drinks, and he wasn't alone. I didn't need to check twice. I didn't need confirmation. I knew. Because this wasn't the first time I had felt the distance, the coldness creeping into our marriage. The late-night business trips, the sudden emergencies, the way he always seemed just a little too distracted when he was home. I had ignored the signs, convinced myself I was overthinking. But now I saw everything with painful, perfect clarity. He had abandoned us. Even when Grace was sick, even when I begged him to be there, he had chosen himself. My breath came in shallow gasps as a new emotion pushed through my grief, burning like fire in my chest. Rage. I closed my eyes, trying to push back the images forming in my mind. Marcus lying in a king-sized bed, arms wrapped around someone else. Marcus laughing, carefree, while I sat in hospital rooms watching our daughter slip away. Marcus smiling in the sun while I stood in the rain, burying the most precious thing in our lives. How dare he? I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw my phone across the cemetery. I wanted to wake up and realize this was all a nightmare. But it wasn't. It was real. And in that moment, my grief twisted into something else. Something darker. I would not be the helpless, grieving widow while he lived his perfect little fantasy. I would not cry myself to sleep while he laid in silk sheets with another woman. No. He had taken everything from me. And now, it was my turn. The sky hung heavy with gray clouds as I left the cemetery, my steps slow, deliberate. The wind carried the scent of damp earth and wilting flowers, yet I barely noticed. The only thing I could feel was the dull ache spreading through my chest, a suffocating weight pressing down on my ribs. My husband, the man who had sworn to stand beside me through everything, was sitting on a beach, probably sipping a margarita, while I had just buried our daughter. I gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. My vision blurred, but not from tears. The grief, the sorrow, it was still there, an ever-present ghost in my bones. But something else had taken root, something sharper, something colder. Betrayal. As I pulled into my driveway, the house loomed before me, hollow and empty. It was once filled with Grace's laughter, her tiny footsteps pattering against the hardwood floors. Now it was just walls and silence. I stepped inside and shut the door behind me, exhaling shakily. My hands still trembled as I pulled out my phone and looked at Marcus's message again. Busy with an important meeting. I'll call you later. The words felt like a slap in the face. I clicked on the location tag again. The screen refreshed, showing me exactly where he was, the Eden Cove Resort. I knew that name. It wasn't just some generic hotel. It was one of the most expensive beachfront resorts in Miami, the kind you booked months in advance. A place where wealthy executives and their mistresses went to disappear for the weekend. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't just an innocent business retreat. This was planned, and I was done pretending that I didn't see the truth. I dropped my keys on the counter and sat at the kitchen table. My laptop was already there, the screen dark and waiting. With one click, it flickered to life. I had to know. I opened Marcus's bank statements first. He had always handled the finances, claiming it was easier that way. I had trusted him, never questioned where the money went. I should have. Transaction after transaction scrolled past my screen. Expensive dinners, spa bookings, private suite reservations. All in Miami. And it didn't start today. It had been happening for months. I felt sick. I moved on to his email, my fingers shaking as I typed in his password. I had guessed right on the second try. He was careless. Or maybe he just never expected me to look. I clicked on his inbox, and there she was, Lily Caldwell. Her name appeared in thread after thread. Messages filled with playful teasing, inside jokes, and plans. Plans that didn't include me. Plans that had never included Grace. My stomach twisted as I read through their exchanges. Can't wait to see you again, babe. I booked us the private villa this time. Just you and me. Don't worry about her. She'll never find out. I inhaled sharply, gripping the edge of the table to keep myself from smashing the laptop against the wall. Not only was he cheating, not only had he abandoned me at our daughter's funeral, he had been stealing from us to fund his affair. I sat in the dim kitchen, staring blankly at the screen. My breathing was slow, controlled, but inside I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff. I had spent the last year watching my daughter slip away, holding her frail little hand in hospital rooms, begging Marcus to come home, to be present, to help me bear the unbearable. And the whole time, he was with her. While I was fighting to keep Grace alive, he was booking 5-star dinners. While I was sitting in cold, sterile hospital waiting rooms, he was lying in a luxury hotel bed with her. While I was planning my daughter's funeral, he was planning a vacation. The pain was unbearable. It was suffocating. But then something in me snapped. If Marcus thought he could walk away from this, from me, from Grace, untouched, he was wrong. If he thought he could live his life as if we had never existed, he was delusional. He had taken everything from me. Now, I was going to take everything from him. I had to be smart. I couldn't just scream at him over the phone. That would give him time to cover his tracks, to twist the truth. No, I needed proof. Undeniable, inescapable proof. I grabbed a notebook and started writing. Step 1, gather evidence. Screenshots of his bank statements. Printouts of his emails. Copies of hotel receipts. Everything I needed to burn his life to the ground. Step 2, hire a private investigator. I wasn't just going to confront him. I was going to expose him publicly. Step 3, set the trap. I needed him to think I was still blind. I needed him to walk right into his own destruction. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the evidence scattered across my table. There was no going back now. I picked up my phone, my fingers hovering over his contact. Should I call him? Confront him? Tell him I knew everything? No, that was too easy. I wanted more than that. I wanted justice. I wanted him to feel every ounce of the pain he had caused. So instead, I did something else. I smiled. Then I typed a message. I've been thinking about us. I know we've been distant, but I want to talk. Can we meet at the vacation home next weekend? I think we need some time to reconnect. I hit send. Seconds later, my phone vibrated. Of course. I'll be there. The irony wasn't lost on me. He thought he was manipulating me. But the truth? I was the one pulling the strings now. I need to know. What would you do if you were me? Would you destroy his life piece by piece? Or would you walk away and let karma handle it? Comment 111 if you want me to make him suffer. Comment 222 if you think I should just move on. Either way, this story isn't over yet. And if you want to see how it ends, hit that subscribe button. Because trust me, revenge has never tasted sweeter. I sat in my dimly lit kitchen, surrounded by cold silence. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, my heartbeat pounding in my ears. I had spent the last few hours collecting the pieces of my broken reality, and now it was time to put them together. Marcus thought he could get away with it. He thought I would be too consumed by grief, too weak to notice the cracks in his carefully constructed lies. But he underestimated me. I took a slow breath, steadying my trembling hands as I clicked open our joint bank account. The screen loaded, and within seconds, my stomach twisted. I scrolled through the recent transactions, my eyes darting over the numbers. 5-star hotels, luxurious spa treatments, upscale restaurants in Miami. Thousands of dollars. Money that should have been spent on Grace's medical bills. Money that should have been for our family. Instead, it was spent on her. My breathing grew uneven as I clicked deeper. Then, something else caught my attention, a credit card I didn't recognize. One I had never seen before. I clicked on the statement. It was worse than I imagined. Private jets, expensive gifts, exclusive rooftop lounges, and then a diamond necklace from Tiffany's. Tiffany's. Marcus had never bought me jewelry from Tiffany's. But now, he was buying diamonds for another woman? A wave of nausea hit me, but I forced it down. I wasn't done. I needed more. I switched to his email. I knew Marcus's password. He always said he wasn't worried about me checking his emails because he had nothing to hide. Lies. I typed in his login. The inbox loaded, and within seconds, her name popped up. Lily Caldwell. I clicked on the most recent message, my pulse racing. I miss you already. Counting down the days until I see you again. Hope you liked your surprise. Winky face. A second email followed. I had an amazing time last weekend. The private suite was incredible. I still can't believe you pulled off such a perfect getaway. You're the best, baby. Baby. My stomach churned. I clicked on the attachments. Photos of the resort. Him lying in bed, shirtless, with a bottle of champagne on the nightstand. Him smiling. Smiling in a way I hadn't seen in years. Smiling while I was burying our daughter. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palm. But I wasn't done. I opened Instagram. I wasn't following Lily, but I knew how to find her. It took less than a minute. Her profile was filled with carefully curated photos, sunsets, fine dining, yacht parties. And right there, in plain sight, were pictures of Marcus, his arm draped around her. A picture of them at a private infinity pool, a caption that read, "My happy place." I stared at the screen, my jaw tight. Marcus had built a whole new life without me. And that was when I made a decision. He was going to lose everything. I needed proof. Real, undeniable proof. I took screenshots of the emails, downloaded his bank statements, saved every picture of them together. Then I made a call. "Eleanor?" The voice on the other end was sharp and professional. "Speaking. I need your help." Eleanor was a private investigator. I had never thought I would need someone like her, but desperation and determination made me bold. I met her the next morning in a quiet cafe, my hands wrapped tightly around a cup of coffee. She listened as I laid everything out. Marcus's affair, the money, the lies, his absence at Grace's funeral. She didn't ask unnecessary questions. She simply nodded. I'll get you what you need. And just like that, the game had begun. The next few days were a whirlwind of revelations. Eleanor worked fast. She tracked Marcus's movements, confirming that he had spent 4 out of the last 6 months in Miami. Not on business, but with Lily. She dug into his company records and found questionable transactions. Money funneled through fake accounts. Misuse of corporate funds. Marcus wasn't just cheating. He was embezzling. I sat on my bed, the weight of the truth crushing me. He was willing to risk everything. Our marriage, our daughter's medical care, his entire career for her. I could have confronted him right then. I could have screamed at him, thrown the evidence in his face. But no, that was too easy. I wanted him to suffer. Marcus had no idea what was coming. I sent him a message. I've been thinking about us. I know we've been distant, but I want to talk. Can we meet at the vacation home next weekend? I think we need some time to reconnect. I waited. His response came quickly. Of course. I'll be there. He thought he was winning. He thought he had me wrapped around his finger. But what he didn't know was that I had already set the stage. The moment he walked into that house, his world would come crashing down. The night before the meeting, I prepared. I printed everything. Emails, transactions, photos, copies of the company's financial records. I placed them all neatly into a folder and set it on the dining table. Then I did one more thing. I created a video montage of Grace. Her laughter, her birthday parties, the little moments he had missed. And when Marcus walked through that door, I would press play. I wanted him to see what he had thrown away. I wanted him to feel the weight of his choices. I wanted him to understand that he hadn't just lost me. He had lost everything. If you were me, would you let him get away with it? Or would you make him pay for every lie, every betrayal? If you agree with my plan, comment 121. If you think there's another way, let me know in the comments. Either way, one thing is certain. This isn't over yet. The night before the confrontation, I sat alone in the vacation home. The house was silent, save for the rhythmic ticking of the clock on the wall. The same house that had once been filled with laughter, with warmth, now felt like the stage of a final act. The moment where everything would collapse for Marcus, just as it had collapsed for me. But this time, I was in control. On the dining table sat a neatly stacked folder, filled with proof. Emails, bank statements, credit card charges, photos of Marcus with Lily. Everything he had done, every dollar he had stolen from me, from our family, from his own company. Next to it, my laptop was ready. The video I had made of Grace, her laughter, her smile, the moments he had missed. I had played it over and over, each time fueling my resolve. Marcus thought he was coming here for reconciliation. What he didn't know was that he was walking straight into his own destruction. A car pulled up outside. I inhaled slowly, steadying myself as I heard his footsteps approaching the door. Then the knock. I waited a moment before answering, making sure my voice was controlled. Calm, neutral. When I opened the door, there he was, Marcus, smiling, casual, wearing that linen shirt he always wore on vacations, like nothing had happened, like we were just another couple looking to rekindle our spark. Hey, he said smoothly. You look good. I forced a small smile, stepping aside to let him in. Come in. He walked past me, setting down his overnight bag, his eyes scanning the room as if expecting candles and wine. Instead, he found the folder. I saw it, the flicker of hesitation. I walked past him, my movements slow, deliberate, as I sat down at the dining table. Sit, I said, gesturing to the chair across from me. He hesitated but did as I asked, his usual arrogance returning as he leaned back, completely unaware of what was coming. I've been thinking a lot, I began, keeping my tone even. About us. About what happened. He nodded, playing the role of the remorseful husband. I know it's been hard. I know I wasn't there when I should have been. But I want to fix things. Fix things. I nearly laughed. Instead, I tilted my head, my fingers brushing against the folder. Before we do that, I want to show you something. I turned the laptop toward him and hit play. Grace's laughter filled the room. Her bright, joyful voice, so full of life, echoed in the silence. Clips of her running in the backyard, her little hands holding mine, blowing out candles on her last birthday cake. Marcus stiffened. His eyes flickered with something I hadn't seen in years: guilt. He swallowed hard, shifting uncomfortably as the video continued. As our daughter smiled at the camera, the weight of what he had thrown away pressed down on him. I let it play until the very end. When the screen faded to black, the silence that followed was suffocating. I looked at him, my voice sharp but steady. "That's what you missed." His mouth opened, but no words came out. I slid the folder across the table. "And this," I continued, "this is what you did instead." He hesitated before picking it up. His hands trembled slightly as he flipped through the pages. Every email, every receipt, every lie. Then he got to the financial records, the proof that he had not only betrayed me, but stolen from us. His breathing quickened. His confidence cracked. "This isn't," he started, but I cut him off. "Don't." I leaned forward, my eyes locked onto his. "You stole from our family. You stole from your company. And now the whole world is about to know exactly who you are." His face drained of color. He knew. He knew. And for the first time, he was afraid. I stood up slowly, circling the table like a predator. "I reported everything," I said, my voice calm, controlled. "Your company? They know. The IRS? They know. The police?" I let out a quiet chuckle. "Oh, Marcus, they know too." He shot up from his chair. "You did what?" I didn't flinch. "They'll be freezing your accounts soon, if they haven't already. Investigating every shady deal. Every stolen dollar." His jaw clenched. "You don't understand." "No," I snapped. "You don't understand." I stepped closer, my voice dropping to a whisper. "You didn't just betray me. You didn't just cheat. You stole time, Marcus. Time that should have been spent with our daughter. And now, you have nothing left." He backed away, his hands running through his hair in panic. "Do you know what happens when someone like you gets caught?" I continued. "No more business meetings. No more expensive vacations. No more Lily." His head snapped up at her name. "That's right." I smiled coldly. "I sent her everything, too." He froze. "She knows now," I said. "She knows you're not the powerful man you pretend to be. She knows you're a fraud, a liar, a thief." I took another step forward. "And let me tell you something, Marcus. Women like her, they don't stay with men like you when the money runs out." His breathing was ragged now, his world crashing down around him. And I was finally free. Marcus didn't stay long. He left, his movements frantic, his phone already in his hand, probably dialing his lawyer, his bank, anyone who could stop the inevitable. But it was too late. By the next morning, the headlines were everywhere. Prominent executive under investigation for fraud. High-profile embezzlement case unfolds. Luxury lifestyle funded by stolen money. Wife exposes husband's betrayal. His name was ruined. His career? Gone. Lily? She disappeared the moment she realized the free ride was over. And Marcus? He was alone, just like he had left me, just like he had left Grace. I walked away from that house feeling lighter than I had in years. Justice had been served. But I have to ask, what would you have done? If you think I did the right thing, comment 555. If you think my revenge should have been even worse, comment 666. Because at the end of the day, betrayal like his, it never goes unpunished. The morning after our confrontation, I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing. This time, it wasn't Marcus. It was the beginning of his downfall. I sat up in bed, my heart pounding as I scrolled through the news articles flooding my screen. Prominent executive under investigation for fraud. Luxury lifestyle funded by embezzlement. CEO exposed. Disgraced businessman faces legal battle after secret affairs and financial crimes revealed. It had begun. I took a deep breath, feeling an odd sense of calm settle over me. For months, I had been drowning in grief, in betrayal, in rage. And now the weight was lifting. Marcus thought he could lie his way through life, that he could steal from our family, betray our marriage, abandon his dying daughter, and walk away untouched. But karma had finally caught up to him. Marcus had spent years carefully crafting his image. Charming, successful, a powerful businessman who always had everything under control. That illusion shattered in an instant. By noon, his company had officially terminated him. I watched the news footage as reporters swarmed outside his office. Cameras flashing as security escorted him out. His face was pale, his usual arrogance replaced with something I had never seen before, panic. Then came the police. I saw it happen in real time. The moment they approached him outside his office, placing him under arrest. The look on his face as the cuffs clicked around his wrists, that was justice. The media devoured the story. It was everywhere, headlines, social media, news segments dissecting every detail. Everyone saw him for what he truly was. A fraud, a thief, a man who lost everything because of his own selfishness. It didn't take long for Lily to disappear. I had predicted it. Women like her, they don't stick around when the money runs out. And now that Marcus's accounts were frozen, his reputation destroyed, and his future uncertain, she wasted no time in cutting him off. Screenshots of her Instagram circulated online. Private jets, designer shopping sprees, VIP events, all funded by Marcus. And then she deleted everything, blocked him, moved on to the next wealthy fool who could fund her lifestyle. Marcus had risked our marriage, our family, and his entire career for her. And now, she wouldn't even pick up his calls. I knew it wouldn't take long before he turned to me. And I was right. The first call came from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Then another, and another. Finally, I listened. His voice was shaky, broken, the desperation dripping from every word. Please, I know you're angry, but I need to talk. You don't understand what they're doing to me. Delete. I didn't need to hear anymore. Then came the letters, handwritten, as if that would somehow erase everything, as if I would ever forgive him. For months, I had cried myself to sleep. For months, I had felt like I was drowning, haunted by the ghost of what Marcus had done. And now, I slept soundly, because the only bed Marcus lay in was a prison cell. His trial loomed ahead, and the list of charges against him continued to grow. His former colleagues, testifying against him. His former company, suing him for damages. His former life, gone. There was no mansion, no luxury vacations, no Lily, just 4 gray walls and the reality of what he had done. And I was finally free. The day I signed the final papers to sell the house, I stood in the doorway one last time. For years, this house had been more than just a place to live. It had been a home, filled with memories of bedtime stories, laughter echoing down the halls, and tiny footprints on the hardwood floors. It had been where Grace took her first steps, where she danced in the kitchen, where she curled up beside me on stormy nights. But it was also where I had spent countless nights alone, waiting for a husband who was never really coming home. It was where I had suffered in silence, watching my daughter slip away while the man who was supposed to love us was out building a life with someone else. This house had been a witness to both love and betrayal, and it was time to let it go. As I placed the keys on the counter, I exhaled slowly. I was done holding on to ghosts. I moved to a small city a few hours away, far enough to start over, close enough to keep the memories I wanted to hold on to. It wasn't a mansion, it wasn't extravagant, but it was mine. A cozy apartment with big windows, where the sunlight poured in every morning, where I could hear the sound of birds instead of the emptiness of a house too big for one person. For the first time in a long time, I felt light. I began rebuilding piece by piece. I reached out to friends I had lost touch with, people who had tried to be there for me when I was too lost in grief to see it. I reconnected. I let them in, and I remembered what it was like to laugh without pain beneath the surface. I found myself drawn to photography again. Something I had once loved before my life became a never-ending cycle of hospitals and heartbreak. I bought a camera, started taking long walks, capturing the beauty in the ordinary. The way the sunlight hit the pavement after it rained, the way children's laughter filled the park, the way the ocean seemed infinite when I stood on the shore. I was finding myself again. But the most important step? Grace's legacy. I couldn't change the past. I couldn't bring her back, but I could make sure her light never faded. With part of the money from selling the house, I founded the Grace Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to supporting families with children facing terminal illnesses. No mother should have to sit in a hospital room alone, wondering how she will afford the next treatment. No child should have to suffer because insurance won't cover the care they need. I couldn't save Grace, but I could save someone else's child. And that was how she would live on. The first fundraiser we held was a small charity walk. I had no idea what to expect, but when I arrived, I was overwhelmed by what I saw. Hundreds of people, parents, children, families who had been touched by loss, by love, by the fear of watching someone they loved fight for their life. And at the center of it all, there was Grace's name. Her memory wasn't tied to pain anymore. It was tied to hope. Months later, I received one last letter from Marcus. It had been sent from prison, forwarded from my old address. I didn't open it. There was nothing left to say. He thought he destroyed me. But in the end, he only set me free. Have you ever been betrayed like this? Have you ever trusted someone only to watch them tear your world apart? Tell me your story in the comments. I read every single one. And if you believe in karma, if you believe that justice always finds its way, hit that like button. Because trust me, this isn't the last revenge story you'll hear. Subscribe now to AGS Stories, where real stories of betrayal, justice, and redemption come to life. This was just the beginning. Welcome to AGS Stories, where real stories of betrayal, pain, and justice come to life. If you've ever been hurt, lied to, or left behind, this is your place. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss a story, and I will be forever grateful.